Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to the Tailors Talk Podcast, live here at Grind Entertainment Studio, home of Musician Tailor LLC. I'm your co-host, Chevy Revis, along with my co-host and co-founder, Darrell Twin Smith.
What's up, y'all?
Today's special guest is a father, husband, entrepreneur, brand ambassador, designer, world traveler, and overall cultural creator. You've probably seen his designs in local and international markets like Atlanta, Miami, New York, all the way to Poland and Paris, France. His most well-known design and collaboration can be found on Rap Snacks, and you will see celebrities like Andre 3000, Soldier Boy, Scotty ATL, Migo, Lil Baby, rocking and supporting his design. As a creative director, he has led branding and design projects for major companies including Neiman Marcus, Mitsubishi, Porsche of North America, Waffle House, and Procter& and Gamble, just to name a few. Please have a welcome to the show. Hailing all the way from Goldsboro, North Carolina, by the way of ATL, Georgia, our brother, friend, and ally, Mr. William Floyd, aka King Pop.
What's happening, man? What's happening, man?
Appreciate you. Happy to be here, man. Appreciate y'all having me.
Man,
Thank you
that's
for
what's
pulling
up,
up,
man.
brother.
Nah, definitely.
We appreciate you here coming out here to the Tailor Talks podcast. You're a very distinguished artist. If they don't know you, they know you, but they don't know you because you hide behind that art. There's some amazing artwork
Thank
that
you.
you do.
Thank you.
And as you know, like everybody got a story and it's got a beginning. How did it start?
Man, honestly, I feel like I remember as early
Never had to
as
do you like this.
I can remember as early as the Boys and Girls Club, attending the Boys and Girls Club. A lot of people knew me for my basketball ability, but they didn't really know that I had a creative gift. I used to go and I guess sneak into the arts and crafts room, and that was like a way for me to vent. And a lot of times, I would spend hours, inside the Boys and Girls Club arts and crafts room, just doing arts and crafts all day, and just finding different ways to express myself through that medium.
Okay, that's what's up.
Yeah.
So the first time, like I said, you spent a lot of time at the Boys and Girls Club. When you snuck into the art and craft room, what was one of your first creations?
Man, I remember there was a piece. It was like a porcelain piece of Martin Luther King, actually, and I remember that piece very vividly because I was excited to take it back home to my mom, you know, and she was happy to get it, and just me being able to kind of have that, as a tie-in as far as just where I'm at today is cool to be here in Atlanta and just representing that culture, being able to do give back to the community and stuff like that and that kind of thing or whatever. So yeah, that was the first piece.
Okay, so as you growing up, as you growing up, you said you played basketball.
Mhm.
So when was the first time you said, "Hey, I'm gonna put this basketball down and I'm gonna focus on my artistry as an artist"? And
It was a while. It was a while. I played ball. I played high school. I played at college at St. Mary's University. It was like my junior year, maybe. Like I got a concussion, and that kind of triggered the okay, this thing could end at any point. And at that moment, that's when I kind of made the conscious decision to move back to Atlanta and really start taking my art and design serious. And I ended up switching schools. It's funny because at the time I was studying graphic design, but I had just got into graphic design because I started off in fashion. But that was kind of like that transition into all right, I need to take this art and design thing serious. This could probably be the next thing for me outside of basketball.
oh, okay. Then so you came back. I noticed you went to the Atlanta Art Institute.
Hmm.
So as you once you finished your journey at the Art Institute, w- explain how your journey after that. How what did you do after? Because you know, like when you young, you finish school,
Hmm.
you was like, okay, I'm in a city where you see a lot of creatives
Hmm.
and you see a lot of different things. You see a lot of murals on buildings that like, okay, one day I want one of my murals on one of these buildings.
Yeah.
How when you graduated from the Art Institute, how was your what was your mindset?
It's funny because my I guess my art career kind of started before I started before I finished at the Art Institute of Atlanta. Me and my homeboy, he was a musician. He produced a lot, and I was pretty impressed with just some of his production and just like how he would like just put things together. And he invited certain artists. He had a small um, setup or whatever. He used to bring artists through and produce and stuff like that. And then I would notice like there was no nothing on his wall, nothing, no art, no nothing. It was just like kind of like blank canvas or whatever. And I began to kind of craft up, ideas as far as just being able to showcase my art inside of his space or whatever. And so I can remember, just like randomly asking him, like, "Yo, man, let's do an art show." And it's just an apartment or whatever. But like my whole overall like thought process was like, I don't necessarily need a gallery to show my work. And I feel like that's when it like, it kind of like, the light bulb type of thing switched on or whatever. But like even during like the time I was at the Art Institute, I was working at Neiman Marcus and I was working at Nordstrom. So I was working within fashion. So I, sold a lot of men's clothing, men's suits, and worked with like different tailors and stuff like that. So like the overall like process of me becoming a quote unquote professional creative, like I feel like I kind of like transitioned into it, during my school years, and I feel like those early seeds that I planted kind of like started, blossoming even more after school because, I kind of created opportunities for myself, within that, time period that I was in school.
Okay. And so as you made his studio, you graced your artwork on
Hmm.
his walls and then also, you're a tailor, you make clothing as well.
Hmm.
So when you was at his studio, you was showcasing your clothing as well.
No, so we this like during this time, like really remember it being like solely focused on the art. Like at the time, I was still learning how like to do stream printing and do like sewing and all of these other things. I don't even think I had really picked up the sewing aspect of it just yet. It was more so like me being able to take measurements, me being able to kind of size people and stuff like that, and then being able to work with a seamstress after that. But before, it was like literally like I was just like focusing on painting. Painting. I was just like painting every day. I had this one girl that I was dating at the time. Her aunt was just like, "Oh, like you really have a gift or whatever. You should really like take this thing serious or whatever." And like I feel like since she like right away since she told me that, I was just like, all right, we're really gonna lock in and just like start painting and start, producing pieces every day, investing in, different paints, different brushes, different canvases, and just really just locking in and just, really like using that to express myself, but then also looking at it from a perspective of being able to sell those pieces as well. So
Okay. So as things start to continue to grow for you, I know it's a couple of things I know folks know you for. And how did you get that opportunity to do rap snacks?
I went to school with Daisha Ware. Daisha Ware, she's I would call her a music executive. She's worked with a lot of different people like like Gucci. She worked with Waka. She worked with she kind of like was developed by Deb, Anthony, Waka's mom, and she actually was A&R and earlier on Nicki Minaj, like a lot of her stuff or whatever. But I went to school with Daisha at the Art Institute of Atlanta, and
Okay.
she noticed my art or whatever, and kind of like basically express that, hey, look, this may be an opportunity for you or whatever. Would you be interested in it? And my goal has always been to become a household name or at least associate myself with household brands. And I didn't know that this would be a way to be able to do that. But as soon as she said, hey, look, this is an opportunity, the next, I feel like, week or so, the founder of the company, James Lindsay, he was giving me a call and he ended up stopping by my studio. I had an art and design studio at the time, and he stopped by my studio and he wrote me the first check, to start working on the brand. So it happened pretty quick. I didn't really even I didn't know like the overall process of how any of that side of the business when it comes to like developing packaging for a potato chip brand. I didn't even know like, okay, this is how it works or whatever. And then I started working with the manufacturers of the packaging and coming up with the different formats and stuff like that to be able to kind of present it as an actual bag and stuff. So it was a great experience for me, and it's definitely one of those things where I feel like it helped me reach some of the goals as far as reaching a different demographic and being able to like get in the household for the vicinity.
Okay.
Absolutely, man.
That's a process.
Definitely a process. It was crazy because initially we had several different artists. I think Young Thug was supposed to be on the bag at the time. We never got that contract. Um, Fetty Wap was like our early, like one of the first bags. Fetty Wap and Romeo Miller, Masterpiece
Peace on.
son.
Yeah.
He was one of the early bags. But I think I started off with like three different concepts, um, designing, doing some mock-ups, some sketches, and kind of coming up with some preliminary colors and things of that nature, and started emailing back and forth, the manufacturers, like, hey, look, what do you think about this, format and stuff like that. There wasn't really a lot of like, hey, do it like this, do it like that. I have pretty much full range to, creative direct, the project, and I was able to kind of put my brand on there, my logos and stuff like that. So it was definitely something that, at the time I didn't realize how impactful that it would be. I even like I want to say that I was probably one of the first brands to put a QR code on the bags or whatever, because they weren't even nobody was thinking about putting QR codes on the brand until we started putting the QR codes on the brand. And then one of the other things was even the association of putting like faces on the actual packaging or whatever. Now you see Lay's and you see, all of these other companies putting their names on a packaging or whatever. And I would like to think that we definitely influence, those brands to do those type of things. And then even like remixing, the different flavors and stuff like that. Cause a lot of brands weren't doing that. They had the basic,
Yeah.
flavors. And now, people are trying different things, even like if you look at different candies and all of these, different mashups that, hood things. We would mix up Kool-Aids all the time. You know what I'm saying? We would mix up,
Right.
that this was like a natural thing for
Right.
That
us
cherry
as
and that
as
lemonade.
African, exactly, as African Americans, we
Right.
did that. You know what I
Right.
mean? And I think, that was the genius thing that James did, was he took, our taste buds and considered that, because he's actually a food scientist. So that's like the magic really behind, the brand is, him really like understanding taste buds and that thing or whatever, and being able to like mash his overall like know-how with the that part, and then me being on the front end of it and being able to understand like the psychological benefits of color and layout and that type of thing. It kind of like made a perfect marriage or whatever. So yeah, it's
So the first time you seen them in the stores,
yo.
how was that feeling?
Man,
Yeah.
it's crazy because like literally it was like a 6 months process. It was a 6 month process. I feel like I remember starting maybe in like June or July. And then by December, January or whatever, they were rolling out the product in stores. And then around that same time, I want to say the Migos was putting out their project. I want to say the Culture that was putting out that project, and around that same time, that's when we were like basically doing our rollout too. And we were basically strategically aligning our rollout with their rollout. And then, the jingle happened. The Rap Snacks jingle with Migos happened. And that kind of just exploded on social media as far as the product, because a lot of people didn't even think the packaging or the product was real. Those who were familiar with the brand were like mostly from the like tri-state area. They had the product was around since '96, but we did the relaunch in 2015. We did the relaunch, and
Okay.
we introduced it to the world. So it
That's
kind
dope.
of went from there.
Yeah, it was everywhere.
Sure was.
Sam's.
I used to grab them all the
I
time
know it's
too.
I was
crazy. It's
getting boxes
crazy.
from
It's
Sam's.
so crazy because like literally, you don't think like that the reach is what it is until you start like physically going into these locations and stuff like that. And like, to your point, like my first actual like interaction with just like jumping into the store and like seeing it, it was just like, dang, like, wow, this is like, and it was just like in the beginning, nobody even like, I knew because he like, yo, this is getting ready to hit the stores. You know what I'm saying? Like because I was working at the time. I was working with one of the sales reps that was here because we did the relaunch here in Atlanta, and he was like, "Yeah, it's getting ready to start hitting the stores." And so me, I'm like going around the different stores or whatever. You know what I mean? Like trying to figure out which stores they're gonna be, and of course, like the initial stores was like it was the classic hood stores, it was
Yeah.
the classic, we was touching the hood first, and it really started, trickling out from there.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
Cause you go
definitely.
in Sam's, you get your
It's,
whole
I know
case.
I know it's crazy. Now, I think the crazy part about it, as a business, owner and stuff like that, you start doing research outside of just like working directly with the company, excuse me,
Mhm.
and literally, you start seeing like some of the back end, parts of how to scale the business and things of that nature or whatever. And I was just like, wow, like that's crazy. Like a lot of people don't know how to establish like different relationships with like the Better Business Bureau and like different people who actually have direct access to like the contracts, with the Sam's Clubs and with the, these different people or whatever. And like, I feel like that was like the secret sauce as far as distribution goes. Just being able to like, know who to talk to and that and things of that nature. And when you really like kind of like peel back, some of the business or whatever, you don't really like look at like, the distribution channels and sales reps and like really like the foundation of the business, being able to move the product and things of that nature. It's definitely been an eye opener for me. And I kind of like from a clothing perspective and distributing clothing and manufacturing clothing, I understood that whole process, but I didn't really like understand like how like the whole manufacturing of chips and manufacturing of candies and sodas and stuff of that nature. I didn't even realize that until I started working with them. But yeah, it's definitely eye open.
Yeah, yeah. I was trying to figure out. I know I've been knowing you for a minute.
Yeah.
I always try to remember like where I met someone. I
Yeah.
still can't remember where I met Twin
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, it was around 2016, maybe 2017 ish. Not sure. I knew it was through the Cool Club.
Yep.
Yeah,
It was. It might have been. It might have been a little bit before that.
I didn't get here till like 2016. I started working with them in 2016.
It was 2016. Damn,
Yeah.
it seemed like it was before that.
Yeah.
Because it's funny because I was working with Scotty, doing product design and stuff like that. I would do like custom stuff or whatever behind the scenes for him. And it's crazy because when we met, I think at the time, I think I was doing like some hoodies or something like that I had worked on for him or whatever. And I was like, oh, I saw how you were laying out his merch and really like helping him. I don't even think he really like understood at the time like the impact of being able to have, product available and stuff like that. So like you being able to help, him, understand, that whole business model and understanding how to scale his business as an artist, I think, it opened him up to realize that, you don't have to necessarily just be a one-dimensional creative. You can, you can really, use the world as your canvas, so to speak, and really, if you can think it, you can create it or you can design it. And I feel like, that's what I noticed. Like, when you started kind of like, working with him, I saw a wider perspective from him. And at the time, he was so like focused on just the music side of
I
the
definitely
business.
give him credit for him and Joe Dent and all
Joe,
them. Like
yep.
Joe being the creative director.
Mhm.
I did help behind the scenes a lot,
Yeah.
but I would say he was definitely one of the first artists that I seen like really on top of his merch.
Okay.
Besides Currency,
Yeah.
because I learned from Currency manager,
Okay.
Musa.
Okay.
And then once I got with them, I just took what I learned from them and kind of help what I can do behind the scenes.
That's awesome.
But yeah, for Joe, and
Oh yeah,
all
Joe,
them, like Joe,
that's one of Joe.
Yeah.
Joe, that's one of my brothers in the art business.
That's what I was saying. Y'all
Definitely,
definitely compliment
very,
each other.
very creative. Like a lot of, I think, Scotty's early projects, like Faith, he actually did a lot of the covers and stuff like that or whatever.
Joe designed most of the merch. Like Joe actually all of it, most of it.
Yeah, oh definitely.
Joe would design it, and
Definitely.
then I just knew how to package it and then sell it. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Which, like I say, that part is the you can design it and you can create it. But if you can't sell it, you just got merch.
It kind of,
You know
I'm
what I'm
gonna be honest with you, it kind of sold itself.
Okay.
All I had to do is, like, especially when we was on the road.
Layout.
The layout, it definitely cost.
Merchandising, man. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Like you ain't giving yourself credit, but I'm gonna give you credit because like I just like I see the business. Like I see the business from a different perspective. Like I'm a creative. I know how to design and all of that, but I'm a hustler. I'm a hustler. Like I understood. Like Master P always say, product outweighs talent every day. Like product outweighs talent or whatever. And it's like there's a lot of talented artists, but there's not a lot of talented artists who understand product and understand how to sell the product or whatever. So like, being able to like really like, sometimes man, you step in people's life and it might be in the smallest, simplest way. You open their eyes and you might not even be realizing it yourself. You know what I'm saying? And I'm me personally, because I was able to be around Scotty from the very like, I ain't gonna say beginning, because I feel like Faith was one of the projects that kind of was already out. But I remember, times where they would come to my studio, my art and design studio, to record videos or to record. One time there was like this one magazine, feature magazine, B magazine was putting out a project, and it was featuring Trinidad James, Rich Homie Quan, um, who else? It was a few different artists or whatever that was there at the shoot or whatever, and it was an amazing project. And at the time, like I say, Scotty had maybe one or two projects out, and he was like, I think at the time he was starting to work with like Big Crit and Killer Mike and some of those artists, were starting to kind of like really like understand his craft and respect him as an artist. But he was still like very much so like, still trying to figure out who he was as a person and as an artist and as a creative. And I can remember, pulling him to the side and talking to him about different things or whatever, as far as just like when it comes to clothing and when it comes to being able to really brand yourself and market yourself and understand how that association of being a creative and being a brand like it's two completely totally different things or whatever. So like I say, like you probably couldn't see it because you was working closer with him or whatever, but like I was only around like for spots of time when I felt like, all right, it was a good time for me to step in and like, just be a lending hand and like be more of, basically a big brother, and kind of like, open his mind to some different things that he may not have seen at the time. But he definitely, I'm proud of him.
Oh
I'm
yeah, most
proud of
definitely,
his
most definitely.
development and, how he's been able to grow and mature as an artist and, scale his business.
Diversified too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So as you you've done a lot. So I know you have a art gallery or you had an art.
So I've had an art studio, which was a gallery, because I in the back, we did all of the design work, and we had a production um, room where we produce clothing and stuff like that. And then we had the gallery space, but I've had a couple of different gallery spaces. I've had the first one that a lot of the artists that I was mentioning that stopped by. It was called Royal Flush Studios. It was actually over in the West End, where inside the Metropolitan Lofts.
Okay,
That was
yeah.
like where my first studio was, and
Oh,
I
I've
had
been
that for
over
like
there.
5. I know.
Mud Knock Studio was
Yep,
over
Mud
there.
Knot. Yep.
C Sharp.
Toon was over
Toon was
there.
Yeah.
over there. Block was over
Block,
there.
yeah, it was a
Yeah,
lot of people over
everybody was
Yeah.
there.
over there, and
2
it's
Chain.
crazy. Like I say, like you know, just as a creative, understanding, studying, like, people like Andy Warhol and understanding how they set up their business and their infrastructure and stuff like that, I knew right away that, I needed to have a facility to be able to, like, really produce my art and, like, really, you know, reach more people. That was the only way for me to do it. And through that I was able to, like, really, like, meet other artists, being able to, like, give people a platform to be able to showcase their work and, build like community around my brand and understand like, oh wow, this is I always knew that art was like, in any form was bigger than the actual art itself. It's more about like the community that you build and around it and really like the people that you touch and people that you influence. And so like to be able to, you know, ride, into the gates or whatever of the studio. And at any point, I could see Rocco, I could see, Two Chains, I could see Luda, I could see T.I., I could see all of these different people, you know, conducting business, you know what I'm saying, in the area. And mind you, during this time, there weren't a lot of like music, like art studios or whatever in that area. And I really honestly, I didn't see a lot of art studios of that nature that understood how to, uh, you know, connect and intertwine the art, the clothing, the fashion, the film, all of these different things. Like it wasn't at least in the city of Atlanta, there weren't a lot of studios like that or whatever that threw art shows that had music showcases at the same time. And so like I definitely know
Mhm.
for a fact that I was one of the trailblazers. And it was just a good time to really be able to uplift that particular area or whatever. Because like West End is not really known for that type of environment, but as you can see, like it's a lot of things are changing over there
Mhm.
or whatever now. And like I said, I would like to think that I was one of those pillars in the community that was helping, raise awareness that, hey, look, yeah, it's a urban African American, hood area or whatever. But the reality of it is we can all enjoy art at some form, and my whole vision has always been to be able to bring those forms of art to the people and like meet them where they are and educate them on hey, look, this is art and this is the art form that many people enjoy in galleries and things of that nature, but we can enjoy it in the studio, we can enjoy it in our homes and stuff like that too. So
It's all around us,
yeah,
though.
it's all around
Our
us.
graffiti is art.
Yep.
I could say some of your influences probably with Banksy,
I would
uh,
say my
uh,
early influencers like Keith Haring by
Keith
far.
Haring.
Yeah, Keith Haring by
Yeah,
far was somebody who I saw studied, in school. He was dead
yeah,
before I really like got to like know who he was. I was way
yeah.
younger, but I was able to study through like research and books and things of that nature. And he was, I would say, the most influential as far as me understanding that, hey, I can put my art on clothes. I can put, my art in like figurines. I can do, so many different things. Like he was like the person that, sketched in subways and stuff like that
Yeah,
or whatever with his art.
yeah,
And, it was like he had that inclination that, not everybody will go to a gallery because the stiffness and the uppiness of the gallery space or whatever.
classism.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And he understood like you have to meet people where they are. And a lot of times, like, if you look at subcultures, like underground scenes and stuff like that, you realize that a lot of the dopest, people aren't, you know, connected to the quote unquote masses. They start and like Andre said, in
Yeah,
the small
Charles
rooms.
Rooms. Yeah,
They
yeah.
they start in the small rooms.
Oh,
So it's
that's
like,
kind of like Basquiat, or
yeah,
they kind of
Basquiat.
started and they
Yeah,
came and grabbed him up
exactly,
and
exactly,
pulled him up to the upper
e-
echelon, and
exactly.
yeah,
And he was definitely one of those artists too that was all of those artists, that
yeah,
whole group of artists like the Basquiat's, Andy Warhols, well, Keith Haring's,
yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, were kind of like influenced by, I would say, Andy Warhol.
Yeah.
He was like kind of like the godfather,
I
grandfather
see a
of
lot of
pop
your
art.
work and
Ah,
yeah,
definitely,
with the
definitely.
Campbell suits. I love
Yeah,
that
yeah.
whole brand. That you had
Yeah, with the
Marilyn
rational.
Monroe,
Yeah,
all that
yeah, yeah,
raps.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
feel like
mm,
what I was looking to do, like with the influence of Andy, I was looking to, a lot of our artists, the modern day, Marilyn Monroe's and stuff like
mhm,
that, like, Beyonce and like
yeah,
all of these artists or whatever, like they didn't necessarily get highlighted in the ways of how Andy Warhol would highlight, the
yeah,
Marilyn Monroe's and like, different pop icons and actress and, models and stuff like that. He did highlight like,
yeah.
for like uh, what is that, Muhammad Ali
Come on, yeah,
and people
yeah,
like that. But a lot of times, like you know, we didn't get highlighted. So that was like my thing. Like, all right, I could be the black version of
mm,
the Andy Warhol style as far as like featuring
mm,
our faces that were recognizable to us. And I feel like that's the most important thing in any industry is like representation,
Yeah.
being able to have that representation and being able to preserve our culture as African Americans.
So, man, what is one of your favorite pieces as a adult that that you it's one piece that you definitely will, you always bring yourself to say, hey, I can't believe I did this, but it's the truth.
Man, I feel like I did this is a pretty big piece. Like it was like a 4 foot piece that I did of Basquiat. I did a pretty big piece where I mixed mediums at the time. I feel like a lot of people were doing like fiber art, and so like I did this like mixed media of fiber art, acrylic with resin, and I put it on like this like box type of frame or whatever, and it turned out really um, it turned out better than I could ever imagine. It's like one of the pieces that I have in my studio, and I think that piece stands out as far as just like most recent. But I think I got pieces. There's several different pieces like from earlier on that I produced. A lot of the pieces that I produced earlier on was like more jazz artists because I was really into like going to jazz clubs and I would go network at jazz clubs and like, hey, look, uh, you guys interested in selling my art, I'm like, all right, this is a great place to sell art because, especially the art that I was doing at the time with it being jazz, being able to tie those things in together. But yeah, like it's a number of different pieces, but I would definitely say, that the earlier on pieces of using just like acrylics and like, really like just having that mindset of like, all right, being relentless with my pursuit of building a collection. And, this last, our latest piece of Basquiat, being able to develop that as a overall more 2D, 3D style piece.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got a question. All right, that jacket you made for 3 stacks.
Yeah.
Was that at Comic Con or where was that at?
That was at what was that at? That was Complex Con
Complex Con.
out in LA. That was cool.
That jacket. So tell me about that.
Yeah,
Tell us
that was
about that
yeah,
moment.
that was a cool moment. It was a random moment because I
Yeah.
actually had the jacket on. I was wearing the jacket and I had no idea that I was gonna meet Andre that day. And it's funny, there was like a gallery of people around him. And I walked up. I didn't know he was over there drawing. He was drawing or whatever. And I literally just like walked up and I was like, yo, like I turned around and I was like, yo, Dre. And I turned around and pointed to the back of the jacket or whatever, And that was just an illustration that I did, and I just like, you know what, this will be a dope, LaFace jacket, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a dope, more like tour style, jacket.
Yeah, it's Coach
And
jackets.
yeah,
Coach
and he was like, "That's dope," you know what I mean? That's dope. And then right after he was done, drawing or whatever, his publicist walked him up to me or
That's
whatever.
dope.
And then I was just like, I would love for you to have it. And I just took it off or whatever and gave it to him. And then maybe like 2 or 3 days after that, he was on, I think he was on somewhere in Hollywood, a random blogger took some pictures of him, and I think he was with his lady at the time, and the blogger posted it. I think it was Sandra Rose, matter of fact, posted it on Sandra Rose, and yeah, it was dope. My homeboy like randomly like, yo, send me some pictures. Like, yo, Dre got your jacket on. And, like I knew he had it, but I didn't know that, you know what I mean, he was gonna rock it and when he was gonna rock it. And it was cool because, it was an honest moment. It was a pure moment. It wasn't like nothing pretentious about it. It wasn't like even at the moment, I didn't even ask them for a picture or anything like that. It was like, here, I would love for you to have the jacket. You know what I mean? And I think he received it in that way.
Yeah.
So it was cool. I definitely would love at some point to do a collection with him. Put that together.
That would be
Yeah, we're gonna put that out there,
Yeah.
out there.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
it'll be
Yeah,
hard.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
time for it.
Yeah, nah, it's definitely,
Yeah,
it's
you done had
definitely
too many encounters with him because where
right.
I got this shirt at, it's the
Exactly,
same night.
exactly.
You
Cause I
flicked it
was,
up with him.
yeah, that moment, it was kind of, it was cool because, he was rolling out the blue, what is it, New
Yeah,
Blue
the Jordan
Sun,
New Blue Sun. Yeah,
and
New Blue
Blue
Moon.
Moon, New Blue Moon,
Yeah,
yeah. And I was like, all right, let me,
in your backyard.
yeah, let me stop by my
Like,
store right here.
right, the store,
Let me
right?
at least. I wasn't even gonna go at first, but I was
Mhm.
like, he right here in the
Yeah,
neighborhood. Let me at
yeah.
least go see
Right,
what he
right,
got
right.
going
Let me see
on.
what they talk about.
And yeah, that was
Did he
cool.
remember you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
nah,
they
he
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 got a
definitely,
flick. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, he definitely he showed love. He was like, yo, it's
yeah.
like, what I mean, give me one of those moments or whatever. But yeah, and it's kind of, if you're not in a smaller environment
Mm-hmm.
where you ain't got like, eyes around, it's kind of hard to really build with a person in that way. But the
Like
degrees of
he hogging
separation,
his space or
right,
whatever.
right.
Yeah,
The degrees
yeah.
of separation is so small,
Right,
so
right.
it'll happen. The moment, the time, it'll happen. It's one of
Mhm.
those things. How I see it. Especially like his overall respect and love for creators, because he's naturally
That's
like
crazy.
very creative in that way.
He drew
You
them
know,
he drew them album cover.
yep, he drew a lot
On the
of
CD with the lay down.
Yeah.
yeah, he drew a
He
lot
drew
of
a
that
lot of
stuff
it.
himself. So
Yeah. Nah, it
mhm.
was crazy, man. His influence and how the people that was inside. I was like, man, they go Tip, they go Tyler Creator, go to Banner over there, and like all these people, the half of the Dungeon family were there just to see him. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like,
Yeah,
man, that's a his influence and
his
reach is
influence.
different.
I feel like he's one of those creatives that you know he he was today in today's environment, he would be considered like an influencer of like minds, like just like he would be. I would say he would just be an influencer, but also he would be considered like more of someone who never really like allowed people to like put him in a box, and he just kind of like live outward like
Yeah,
before people were like actually like living outward in that way, especially in our community, because a lot of people would look at him even back then like what is he really like on or
yeah,
whatever. And like I feel like now it wouldn't like he wouldn't like stand out as much like as far as just like being like outside the box. It's just like
yeah,
a normal thing for people to see people who think differently and like move differently,
yeah,
especially in our community. People like have like really like said, all right, it's cool to be not cookie
right,
cutter or like looking like everybody else or whatever. So like
yes,
I feel like because he had that kind of voice without having like to rap. Like he could just like be in the room, so
yeah,
to speak, or whatever, and like people watch how he move and like watch how he dress and things of that nature and influence in that way. I feel like that's why his impact, even though like he hasn't put out music, he still has the impact of being able to have a conversation or just like I say, just be in the room and,
yeah,
have that presence of, being someone who can influence.
Okay.
yeah.
So with your art studio, where is located? What's the name of your art studio? I want you to tell her.
So currently my art studio is in my basement. Yeah, my art studio is in my basement. Pop Basel is the name of my studio.
Pop Basel.
But my gallery space, store space was Pop Basel Gallery, and it was located. The store was located in Little Five Points. I actually closed that store. What like a year and a half ago? I closed that store. It was like right after the pandemic, and you know, I noticed at the time, I'm like, man, this ain't working. The sales not selling like it was, and I was just like, I need to transition into something else. And that's when I kind of stepped back. I took like maybe 2 years off, and I started looking at other ways that I could like generate income for my family. And it's funny because I didn't know that engineering would be actually like engineering, construction, and doing things within the energy space would be something that I would like or enjoy. But I have family who are engineers, civil engineers, electrical engineers, computer engineering. It was in my family. So to be able to like transition into like being a business owner and then like having the inclination of like, all right, this thing is not doing as good as it started. And also looking at it from a perspective of, hey, look, let me introduce my children to another way of life as well. And being able to kind of transition into that space is been cool.
Okay, that's what's that.
I got two more questions.
Yeah.
All right. So this design here, man. What is your ultimate goal for design here? Because I know FIFA and all these people coming up, the Olympics coming, all these other great things, man.
So
What?
that brand is it's associated to Pop Basel
Pop Basel.
Gallery. It's a collection called Atlanta Creative Cup. And so, like, I always, me personally, I'm always developing concepts to be able to like uplift creatives and being able to like give them platforms. And with the World Cup coming, I was like, you know what, it'd be cool to kind of do something for creatives and give creatives a platform. And I know like a lot of times, as a city we highlight a lot of different things, but I feel like a lot of times we aren't ahead of of being able to, highlight certain things in a way where it doesn't come off as like an afterthought. And that was kind of like my initial, you know, inclination of like being able to like do something with that particular brand.
Dope, dope.
Mhm.
Last question. I'll pass it back to you. All right, 3 stacks. Back to 3 stacks.
Yeah.
All right. You wore a similar shoe just like this
hmm
at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
hmm
I want to fish. I want to be able to take this and change it instead of the Air Trainer one. Change the 3 stacks. You know what I'm saying? And what would you do if you had the opportunity to recreate this shoe for him?
Man, I would honestly, let me see. I would
Okay.
I would like I feel like a lot of times like it'd be like the smallest things that you can change to like really like highlight, you know,
I sprayed it behind folks.
No, you good, cuz.
yeah. The you can do like small things like with this. I would say you can like maybe just take the Nike logo, the Nike Air logo off, and maybe put 3 on the back of it or something like that. Maybe in the depending on if you want to like actually like feature the Outcast logo, maybe put the Outcast logo in the tongue or whatever. Change out the colors, probably like make it more, you know, I would do probably like a purple and green or something like that. Making like an alien kind of like remix or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Maybe like throw on the bottom sole, like the where the black is, maybe do like some like a almost like a stink only kind of vibe or
Okay.
whatever to it. You know what I mean? Maybe make the logo the 3 purple, make the Outcast logo on the tongue purple.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I got
Okay, yeah, I know you got some ideas.
I can definitely,
I just wanted a real time
yeah,
assessment. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
Nah. It's a lot of different things, a lot of different colorways, but just
Yeah.
the 3.
30,
You
okay.
throw the 3 up there.
All right.
Yeah.
No zero,
Yeah,
just a 3.
yeah,
Like Chance the Rapper.
you don't, yeah. He the original
The
3. He
okay.
the original 3. 3
Yeah.
stacks.
Hey, okay.
Yeah.
That's what's up, man.
Yeah, I just want to, show people how creative you are.
Yeah,
What
definitely,
what you
man.
do. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
Yeah.
definitely can
So
make that
what's your
happen.
your next journey creative wise? What you got
So
going on?
so I'm like currently I'm working on a book. Um, Working on a book, and we will definitely be putting that out. Probably the end of this year, beginning of next year. I really want to tap into my ability to use words. I think it was something that I kind of shied away from. You know, earlier on, but I did have a couple of my teachers that told me, hey, look, you could be a writer at some point in your life if that's something that you would decide to do. And I think right now, I've worked on some poems, I've worked on some short stories, I've worked on a number of different things. Earlier on, I've put those away. I think now is a better time. Just I feel like having lived a little bit longer and having experienced some different things, I have more that I could share and like more that I could write about. And I think it's a better time for me to put it out and really be able to kind of like be the bridge between, I'm 43, 42, be 43 this year. And I think, I am like like the middle, kind of child type of thing or whatever, where, you got some younger, and people in their 20s, and you got people like, I feel like most of the people who are really like still running rap right now are really in their 50s or whatever. I feel like I fall kind of like right in the middle of that, and I feel like a lot of times, like you know, from a communication perspective, some of the younger folks don't quite understand, some of the older people or whatever when it comes to like being able to express themselves and being able to like almost like get the torch or so to speak carry the torch or whatever so to speak or whatever. And I think I want to really like be a voice between the older uh, um, crowd who has the wealth of knowledge, but at times aren't able to communicate to the younger audience in a way where it's productive. A lot of times it ends up being counterproductive before it's productive, and I feel like a lot of times because of that there's like wasted time. And so I want to kind of be able to help in whatever ways that I can when it comes to communicating to the youth, and as well as being a voice of reason.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, it's a lot of. I think the gap between my our generation and the youngsters is that sometimes the older generation don't know how to talk to them. So they hear it as you yelling at them.
Yeah.
They hear it's like, okay, if it took you this long to get here, I'm trying to do it in the shortest amount of time that I can do it. Because a lot of things like the way we grew up. I'm way older than you. So it was taught you had to go do this
Yeah.
instead of this new generation. They like, okay, as they sit back and start looking at things, they like, okay, it took them that long to get to where they at, but it didn't work. It wasn't working. So they trying to change up things. And I see it's not bad, but it's the way they going at it sometimes.
Yeah.
And then it's like instead of yelling at them, you got to talk to them in a manner where
Yeah.
like, hey, let me help you out here. Let me
They don't have a lot of the younger folks now. Like I'll just be honest, they don't have hands-on skills. They don't have people skills.
and
You
this
know.
is where I think that generation went wrong. And I think that's and I ain't finna talk politics, but
Right.
it happened during the Bush administration when that No Child Left Behind. You got a lot of kids out here that can't read,
That's hey,
and it's not just
that's
that
so real.
they can't read, and then I blame their parents because them parents should have said, "Hey, I need you to read this book. Let's go over this homework." But I'm gonna leave that alone.
Nah, that's so real though, man. That's so real. Like I feel like, a lot of their overall like understanding doesn't come from, books.
It come from
It come
YouTube,
from the phone.
Instagram.
Yeah, it come from the phone. And it's like they don't understand that somebody had to create the content. Somebody had to write that content. And some of that is made up stories. Some
Yeah.
of it is, like AI. Yeah, you know what I mean? And it's like, I was having a conversation with my homeboy or whatever, and I was, talking to him about AI, and I was talking to him about, um, remembering the times when AOL started being introduced to the home or whatever, as far as the internet and stuff like that. I was like, these are the same kind of situations that we're actually experiencing during our time. And I feel like some of our parents said, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and, gravitate towards, building, with the internet and building with being able to use computers and things of that nature. And then there's a lot of our parents that said, hey, look, we're going to go and work, a blue collar. And like, like my mom, she was a nurse and, she did housekeeping and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? And so, now, you know, nowadays it's like all the way left. Like, oh, we doing AI, we doing internet, we doing computer, we doing phone. And it's like there's no, balance of like, okay, yeah, we can do this, AI and we can do this computer thing. But
Can't
at
change
the
a
same
tire.
time, we gonna have a foundation of something because you're gonna always need a nurse. You're gonna
Yeah.
always need an electrician. You're gonna always need somebody who actually is hands-on or whatever. So like, you know, not saying don't do that computer thing, but actually have some real life, skills that don't require energy, you know. It just like literally it's hands on or whatever. You can go outside and cut some grass. You can go
Yeah.
outside and, do some stuff around the neighborhood to be able to earn some income. You can go outside and garden. You can go outside and do like you know what I mean, some of these things. And like I feel like, you know, a lot of them, I feel like it's good that they can see those type of things on the internet, but then at the same time, they need to see people like ourselves who have those kind of multi-purpose skills doing those things and, be influenced in that way too, opposed to just only being influenced by rap music or only being influenced by somebody putting a basketball in the hoop or, things that we always, as African Americans, get stereotyped as that's the only thing that we're capable of doing.
But see, I'm gonna say this here. The stereotype comes from, and I always say that whoever controls the media control the narrative.
Yep.
And you can walk throughout any neighborhood, you can always find somebody working. It's just not. That's the thing where, you know, the, I get into a lot of
I
arguments
agree with you on
because
that
I
one.
will sit there and say that's not true. Because if that's the truth, I said that's the only people you looking up to.
Right.
It's not, you're not looking up to the people that the mechanics, the trades. And here's the thing, this is where a lot of folks don't, they look at the man with the dirty hands and greasy clothes.
Right.
He's broke and he's
He the
working
man
hard.
that's wealthy.
But then,
Blown
but
up the
see,
wind.
that's what they don't
Man, that's
understand.
wealthy.
Electrician.
He ain't
You
gotta
know-
spend. He ain't gotta spend. He ain't gotta spend that money that them artists gotta spend trying to look
But
good.
it ain't just the artists. You have some of the lawyers, you have some of the doctors. Yes, they get paid. But at the end of the day, here's the thing. Some of them still paying back them student loans.
Yeah.
When you got that electrician, that plumber, he went to school for 12 months, 18 months, and he already ahead of the game.
Yeah. And he ain't got the perception. He ain't gotta. He don't have to live up to the perception of he got money like a doctor or a lawyer either. He ain't gotta wear them suits. He ain't gotta pull up in the, the latest
Yeah.
ride or any of those kind of things that these doctors and lawyers and people
Man,
who are in front of people majority of the time. Like he behind, the mechanics be
ain't worry
behind the
about no
scenes and people
haircut, none of
clean.
that.
He said
Yeah.
do none of
No
that.
grooming. You like,
But
hell
yeah,
done.
it's the thing is, and I'm gonna piggyback off on something you had said, is more that to bridge that gap, it always got to, as you see, it's as you in between the 20s and the 50s,
Mhm.
that's where you become that mentor and say, "Hey, okay, we gonna have to, how I'm gonna get this young man that's in his 20s and going into his 30s to start looking at things besides instant
Yeah.
popcorn. I'm on my phone and thinking this how the world work when he can't change a tire. He don't know how to tie. He want to wear his pants down to his ankles. Uh, you have, if you want to be respected, you got to look respectable.
Yeah.
And it is things like that as and like with your art, you know, I looked at a lot of stuff you done, and you done a lot of amazing stuff.
Yeah, I
And
appreciate
it's
that.
like it's one of those things where, and even and it ain't just you, me and Chevy. We
Hmm.
talk to kids. I talk to I is these they about 18, 19 years old. I
Hmm.
talk to them on a daily, and I had to remind them. I said, hey, your school system failed you, and I said, I know your mom and daddy love you, but they failed you too. I said, because if you can't read what you need to do, there's an issue.
Huge.
I said, because you sit here relying on somebody to tell you what to do. And I said, once you finish this school, what's gonna happen? Nobody ain't gonna tell you what to do. You're gonna be jobless. Be
Man.
like, hey, you can't read them instructions.
Yeah,
Cause you gonna
Chat
because once
GPT.
they put you out there, they got to spell it. Cause I be sitting there like, man, they like to spell in text. You can't get on the Google and
oh my
text.
goodness. These kids
They gonna
now,
be mad
man.
at me.
These kids now, man. Like I will say I'm a proud father, and that's one of the things that I kind of drill into all of my kids. Hey, look, we gonna if we gonna spend 2-3 hours on this iPad, we're gonna spend an hour, you know, reading. We're gonna spend an hour writing.
Yeah,
We're gonna spend an hour, doing some math problems. We're gonna learn how to, count this money.
Mm.
We're gonna learn how to be in an environment or whatever and know that, hey, look, we need to be quiet. We need to, be respectable to our elders, like just old school type of stuff or whatever that I feel like, you know, there's certain mannerisms that will take you further in life than you could ever imagine. Like being able to like move in a room
Yeah.
or whatever and not necessarily feel like you got to be, the center of attention and still be able to conduct yourself and get business taken care of. Like
yes,
that
sir.
kind of thing or whatever. I feel like it's so important that those are definitely the things that I feel like I've been fortunate enough to have, certain men and certain women in my life that kind of poured those type of things in me. And then I was able to kind of like go around other people and be around other people's family and stuff like that and see how those people move and how they interact and it's like being able to like experience things outside of 285, being able to experience things, you know what I'm saying, abroad. Like those kind of experiences, I feel like kind of, help shape my mind as far as being able to like not think, only of what's in front of me. Being able to think, oh, okay, yeah, we are fortunate as Americans to have the liberties and stuff that we have, but there's a lot of people in other countries who have, you know, very little, liberty, very little,
Yeah,
things that they have access to. And, it's those type of things that I feel like we have to, be mindful of and being able to share those experiences with the youth and being able to kind of like say, hey, look, you can accomplish some things that you may not even know that you're going to accomplish today. You may not even have the tools, to be able to do it now. But if you have the experience and are exposed to it, you at least plant that seed or whatever to be able to say, okay, all right, in the future, yeah, if I get X, Y, and Z, this will position me to be able to really achieve the goals that I want to achieve. So, just being able to share that kind of information with them or whatever, and communicate to them on the level that they are on or whatever,
Yeah.
and not, talking over their head. You know how some people, they be it's like, yeah, it's good. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes some people need that or whatever. Some people need it the hard way. You know what I mean? But then majority of these people, the majority of these kids soft nowadays. They don't know. They don't, you know what I mean? Like, let's
I
be
ain't what you
honest.
talking about.
They soft. They might they
They
might
are
think they
you.
might say they hard. They might think
Yeah.
they tough and all of that, this, that, and the
They can't
third.
take no whooping.
They can't take no
They gonna pull
real.
that old
See what
pistol
I'm
out.
saying? Look,
Yeah.
exactly. See, that's what I'm talking about. They don't, that type of thing. They didn't have to go through that or whatever. And it's like, shoot, I had my share of fights and that kind of stuff or whatever. And it was something that, all right, you live to see tomorrow or whatever, and you probably gonna see the same person or whatever, and y'all gonna have to figure out, all right, how to coexist and how to talk,
Yeah.
and not just feel like y'all gotta, come at each other in that way or whatever. And I feel like when it's, you know, explained in that way or whatever, opposed to just like, it's like, all right, dang, you know what? I didn't even think about it in that way. I can communicate through this disagreement that I had with my brother. You know what I mean? I can't,
Right.
just literally just have a conversation with him, and then 9 times out of 10, y'all probably from the same hood. Y'all probably have the same understanding. Y'all probably got the same OGs and all of these all this, that, and the third. But because y'all didn't even have the a second to be able to explain, hey, look, this is where I'm coming from. Now you got a whole different kind of problem that could have been resolved with
Yeah.
just a brief conversation. So like, it'd be like stuff like that. It's like we definitely we gotta do that. You know what I mean?
But
Like,
man,
it's our responsibility.
we could be here all night
I
long
know.
talking.
I already know. I already know, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate y'all. It's definitely been a great conversation, and I think,
But brother, where can they find you at on social media?
man, follow me. Follow me on King Pop Design. No funny spelling, just King Pop Design. That's my personal page. My business page is Pop Basel, just POPBASEL. Yeah, definitely. Website's popbasel.com too. So just stay tapped in with me. I'm always sharing what I know, and I ain't no gatekeeper. Whatever information that's available to me is available to you.
Damn, appreciate that. Most definitely.
You already
Appreciate
know
you
it.
pulling up,
Yeah,
bro.
man. You already know.
Always
I
Yes, sir,
appreciate
man.
y'all,
pleasure.
man.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
for real.
He can't fuck what else they need to do.
Hey, we need y'all go out there, subscribe, like, and share to this Tailor Talk podcast. Y'all get out here and get this knowledge.
So,
And meet these wonderful guests that y'all can definitely link up with and build.
show.
Peace.
Take time.